Hi again folks, how's all doing? Okay then, I said in my last video that I was going to fit a new motor into my Lima Class 37 here that I picked up from Model Rail Scotland. Now, the motor I'm going to fit isn't really a CD motor, it's one of these. This kit is now available from Peter Spares, who's now a distributor for micromotor.eu, and both him and Micromotor have very kindly made this one available for me to try out and review. So thanks to both Peter and Micromotor for that. The kit consists of what appears to be a very good quality coreless 1 to 12 volt motor. You get the mount, and it comes with a brass pinion gear. Just get it out. So it's not a nylon pinion gear, it's a nice little brass one. And you also get a couple of bits of wire and some heat shrink. So I have to say that at first glance this looks to be a very nice kit. However, I'm going to say up front that this is not cheap. Compared to other Lima Ringfield conversion kits that are available, this is pretty expensive to say the least. I mean, you know, there's taxes and markup and VAT, etc. So it all stacks up, but there's no getting away from the fact that this is what might be described as a premium conversion kit. It's not cheap. I'll put a link in the description below to Peter Spares' website for this, and you can see the price for yourself. Personally, I'd be much more likely to buy one if they ever make one for Hornby Ringfields, because I've not had good experiences converting Hornby Ringfields. However, all that being said, this is a very nice looking motor, and I'm really hoping it works well. Now, ideally, I want to be able to demonstrate an improvement in performance with this motor fitted. However, to do that in a true and meaningful way would be tricky to do without some fancy gear, but what I'm going to do is demonstrate how the Class 37 performs as it currently is, measuring the voltage at which it pulls away, its amperage reading, and also how it performs on my shuttle. One of the reasons I fitted a CD motor to my Lima 101 was to make it run properly on the shuttle. It does seem that the Lima Ringfield likes a bit of juice to get going, but it's not something I've ever measured till now. So I've connected up my multimeter to the track and set it to measure voltage, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the power on very slowly, and we'll see at what voltage the locomotive pulls away. So we'll say just under 5 volts the locomotive started to move. Now my Lima 101 DMU here is currently fitted with a CD motor from diesel-trains.co.uk, so let's do the same thing and see how many volts it pulls away at. Just over a volt it will pull away. And this is my Lima 31, which still has the original Ringfield motor in it, so let's do the same thing. Again, it's 5 volts before it starts to move. And my Class 33 here has the same CD motor as the Class 101, so I'm expecting a similar very low voltage pull away. Just over 2. But then I haven't run that for a while. And then just out of interest, my 55, which also has the CD motor, how many volts? About the same as the 33. We'll just test the 37 again. It was just under 5 volts when it pulled away. Yeah, 5 volts. The existing Ringfield on the 37 currently pulls 200 milliamps. The Class 101 with a CD motor pulls just about 100 milliamps. The Class 31 with the Ringfield pulls just over 200. And the class 55 pulls about 50 milliamps. So I've just switched on the shuttle and you can see the 101 pulls away very nicely. Class 33 in the shuttle does the same. And the 55 pulls away as well. So there's the 37 and the shuttle is on and absolutely nothing is happening. I could adjust the shuttle to make it run, but it would end up running faster than I would want it to. So there we are. I think that shows that converting these Lima Ringfields into a CD motor certainly makes them more efficient. They draw less current and they'll pull away at lower voltages, and they'll be a little bit quieter as well. So it's going to be very interesting to fit this micromotor and see how that performs. Okay, so this should be fairly straightforward. I'll put a link in the description below to the Micromotor YouTube channel to an instructional video on fitting this motor, but I think it'll be straightforward enough. The pinion gear on this has to be secured with glue, which initially I was a little bit concerned about, but it means anybody can fit it. You're not going to need any special tools, and it's a nice fit onto that shaft. A tiny wee spot of super glue will fix that in place. I think it recommends using a retaining compound or metal epoxy, but a bit of super glue will do the same job. Similarly, the motor secures into the mount with glue. It just pushes in there and a wee spot of super glue will hold it in place. So, okay, right, we'll get this old motor out and the new motor in. We'll need to desolder the wires. Just lift that off. There's the brushes and springs. Lift the armature out. And we need to remove the magnet, which can be a wee bit of a fiddle because it's kind of secured in with a little hook at the top there. So you want to get a screwdriver in there and lever it out. Like that. So that'll now fit in there. We can screw that in place with the original screws. So there we go, that's the mount fitted. It's a nice fit. Now the positive terminal on the motor is identified, so that's useful. So we can orientate the motor so the positive terminal is on this side, because that's the negative one that will connect to there. And this is where we can judge where we're going to fit that gear, because we want it to sit on that shaft just about there. Now instructions suggest measuring it, but they're not entirely clear what you're measuring. But I would say to engage with the gears, you want it to be about 3.5, so about 3.5 millimeters that way. I think the instructions recommend 4 millimeters, but basically I've set that so the rear of the gear is about 4 millimeters from the top of the shaft. So that should engage correctly. Yeah, I think it will. I think it will. So let's just get this out of the way a minute. We need to glue the gear on. So I've just got some super glue on a cocktail stick. I'm just going to put the glue on the inside of the gear and then push it onto the shaft. I think that'll just about do it. So the little wires that come with the kit, I'm going to solder them onto the terminals, and then we'll solder the existing wires in the locomotive onto the ends of these wires. So we'll strip these. Strip both ends and leave quite a bit of bare wire at that end for fitting to the locomotive wires. They're very small terminals. Both wires fed through. And you'll see in instructions it tells you to solder it shows you soldering the wires like that and then bending them. You better to solder them like that in the first place. Red wire on. And the black wire. So now I want to desolder the existing wires from the plate. Just that one. And there's two going to the negative brush. One from the rear pickup and one from the extra pickup at the front. Okay, that's the plate removed. So I'm just going to clean up the end of this wire. That over there. And then we twist those wires together. Solder them. Heat shrink down. Shrink it. And then we have to clean these wires up. We want to twist these three wires together. Some solder on there. Shrink that. And that is it connected up. Now, fit the motor in there. You need to be very careful with the position of that worm gear and the motor, because you could end up with the pinion gear hitting the casing here. Right, so that goes in there. The gear's engaging. That all sounds a bit screechy just now. Get some oil in there. Some oil in the gears. Yeah, I think that'll be okay. Right, so we now want to glue the motor in place. Touch of super glue on either side. Again, not too much. You don't want to fix it in absolutely permanently. A couple of wee spots of super glue. And in we go. That can now go down in there. Okay. It sounds a wee bit rough, but I think that's the controller. Right, we'll take this to the layout, back onto the Morley controller, and we'll do the same tests again. Okay, so originally this took about 5 volts or just under to pull away. Let's see what it does now. That's actually moving at under a volt. So that's a little bit better than the other CD motors, but of course you have to factor in this is a different model, different gears, so you'd have to test a number of these motors with a number of different CD motors to be, to give it a true result. But on the face of it, yeah, that's a result. It's pulling just under 100 milliamps. Whereas before it was 200. Now this wouldn't work at all on the shuttle. Let's switch it on. And away she goes. Okay, so as you could see there, a successful conversion, and this old Lima 37 now runs much better. Fairly easy to install, but positioning and gluing the pinion gear is a wee bit of a fiddle, This 37 ran absolutely fine as it was, but I do prefer the low power input smooth running you get with these replacement motors. And of course, if you intend to fit DCC and all the other bells and whistles, then you really want to replace the old Ringfield motor with something a bit more efficient. This is a very nice motor. I really wish it had some standout advantage over everything else out there to justify the price, but in all honesty, the motors I've fitted to my other Limas perform pretty much the same. This is a wee bit better, but does it justify the cost? Probably not. This is a 12 volt motor though, unlike a lot of the CD motors that are 6 volt, so it won't ever need a voltage dropper. And short of trying to just hold different loads, I can't really measure torque, but I don't see that being an issue with this. This will certainly pull as much as the locomotive's traction tyres will allow. It would have been interesting to have measured the decibel level before and after as well, but I wasn't really expecting a huge difference in noise. I think it is a little bit quieter. Most of the noise comes from the gears anyway, and they're still there of course, but some motors will definitely be a lot quieter after a conversion like this. As I said, if a range of these could be produced to fit Hornby Ringfields, I'd be a lot more likely to buy one, but even then the cost is a bit off-putting. I'm not going to say much more about the price. I'm aware of probably why these cost what they do and why others are probably much cheaper. It's not really for me to comment one way or the other, and I'm sure you guys will have plenty to say. All that matters is for me to say that I can absolutely recommend this kit, but I also recommend others. So you pay your money and you take your choice. But I think I've been able to demonstrate in this video that this motor is, certainly a little bit better than any of the other conversions I've done. But there you go. I thought you'd be interested to see one of these new conversion kits fitted. I'll put all relevant links in the description. Thanks again to Peter Spares and Micromotor, and I'll catch you later, folks.